City Council meeting. I apologize for missing the work session. I came down with the flu last week and still have a little bit of congestion in my chest, but things are back to normal. And so, again, I apologize for missing, and thank everybody for taking responsibility and running the meeting. So it's time to call this meeting to order. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll ask you to continue standing. Mr. Perkle is going to bless our meeting right after that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Perkle.
Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to be here tonight, for the many blessings you've given us. Thank you for so many people coming out to share their concern and their love for the city. Thank you for those and be with those that also were not able to be here tonight. We ask your blessings upon us. Help us to make good decisions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. All right, the next order of business is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? Have a second from Mr. Perkle. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Next is the approval of the minutes from the council meeting and executive session on January the 8th, 2024. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the council meeting minutes from January 8th, 2024, and the executive session from January 8th, 2024.
I have a motion from Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Page. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Very good. We have no awards, presentations, or proclamations, so we'll move on to reports. We have Lee here with us tonight. Mr. Do you have a report?
Mr. Mayor, we have no report from the city attorney tonight.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to City Council, and I will start with Mr. Page.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, do want to give a shout out to our marshals, specifically Marshal Parker for organizing the great community outreach program. We started, I guess, 2 weeks ago. Mr. Hicks was there along with me as we started out. We had a small but mighty bunch there, so excited to get that program started. Really just helping the kids learn some life skills and just have some fellowship and some great times and make those connections for the next couple months. Secondly, I do want to go ahead and recognize two members of our local community. Yesterday, Buford First UMC had its annual chili cook-off, and two of our very own Sugar Hill residents actually won. Eric Linsky of Kendrick Ridge was an honorable mention, and then Mark and Nikki Redstrom of Laurel Park placed second overall. So congratulations to both of them. And then lastly, I do want to thank everyone who emailed and reached out over the past week regarding the Envision 100 plan, and also the two intersections that were on the work session agenda from last week. Lots of great questions, lots of great concerns, passionate comments, so really appreciate those folks for making their voice being heard the past couple weeks. With that, Mr. Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Ms. Avery, you're up next.
I'd like to say thank you to the Black Women's Association of Sugar Hill for their presentation for Black History Month at the Eagle Theater. They first had a story walk around the immediate downtown area and around the theater, and then there was a presentation of the movie 42, of the story of Jackie Robinson. And it was a great movie and well attended, and I thought it was a great selection of which movie to present for that event. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Mr. Anderson.
The only comment I have tonight, Mr. Mayor, is a reminder that if you would like to get a memorial brick for your family, for a service member that can be placed in our Veterans Memorial across the street, we will unveil those during Memorial Day. That ordering deadline is coming up soon. I'll be honoring my maternal grandfather this Memorial Day. I'm looking forward to that. If you have any questions on that, you can email Stephanie Isaacs. She'll actually help you go through the process of finding out the service records if you need that assistance. She does a great job as our cemeterian and maintaining our historic cemetery, and it's a great way to honor your family members and their service to our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And Ms. Isaacs is here tonight. Just acknowledge that she's here.
Yes, Ms. Isaacs, if you want to stand up in case somebody in the audience has a question about that brick, not to put you on the spot, but
As far as with the brick, it has a process going through online. It is on the website. They can apply for the brick, and again, there is documentation that we need to show to the veteran from all branches, and if there is any need for help on that.
thank you, Ms. Isaacs, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Hicks, you're up next for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to echo Councilman Councilman Page on the Youth Empowerment Program that's hosted by our marshals. It was a great program. Definitely some really great leaders, upcoming leaders that were there. So I think there are a few more spots that's available. So if you have any teenage age kids at home, I highly encourage you to push them out to come and be a part of it. I would also like to speak on the Digital Learning Day. Those of you that were able to attend, thank you for attending our Digital Learning Day that the City of Sugar Hill hosts at the East Center. And again, what that is, it's an opportunity. The city opens up the classroom settings for everyone, but specifically it was for families that we may have in the community that does not have access to internet. And what we want to do is we offer them a vehicle to come and digital learn together is what we call it. It's a great environment of families, community. The marshals are there, the mayor is there, the staff is there, council members are there. And so it's a great opportunity for families to come and share Digital Learning Day together. You can't drop your kids off. I just want to make sure that's always, I put that out there. But it is a great opportunity to spend some time with everyone. I also would love to echo Councilwoman Ms. Avery on the BWASH Black History Month event that was hosted at our Eagle Theater. We have some of the BWASH members in the audience today, an amazing job of what they've done. But today is the 12th, and we have a couple more weeks of Black History Month. So it was a good opportunity to learn more about a lot of the opportunities of those that have set away for a lot of things a lot of great things that's happening within this country. So for Black History Month, and then the North Gwinnett Co-op. Again, I can never share the need of what the North Gwinnett Co-op needs for what they're doing for families within our community. This year, 2023, was the year that they've actually provided the most donations to families. Even it has surpassed even the COVID year, and so it's a high demand for families right now in regards to the need for food, financial assistance as well. But also the donations are down just because, of course, food prices and all of that is so expensive. So a lot of donations are really down. And so they're relying heavily for corporate donations and all of that. So again, there's opportunities to volunteer. Every Monday, they are looking for volunteers to provide food. So again, I can be a point of contact for you if you are interested in volunteering, but also if you have any donations to drop off, you can drop them off there. I'll be happy to assist you with that. And lastly, on Wednesday, I would ask that everyone, please, husbands, treat your wives great on Valentine's Day. But wives, treat your husbands great as well. So happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Have a great week. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Good reminder about Wednesday. Mr. Perkle.
Thank you. I don't have a report. I'd just like to say it's good to see a good turnout here. I know it takes a lot of effort for people to come out. People are busy with the things they have to do, so I appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. And I'm up next, and I have just a real short PowerPoint presentation. As y'all know, I'm a very visual person, and I just like for people to see things. And I'll ask you to advance to the first slide. So over the last couple months, I've heard lots of reports about a bald eagle at Ridge Lake Park, which is something that's pretty cool to me. And fortunately, a resident of ours by the name of Ann Bender actually caught the bald eagle in a photograph, and it's a pretty amazing photograph. And there have been some sightings of juvenile bald eagles around Bowman's Island as well. And so it's cool to kind of see them start to come back to our area of Gwinnett County and of Lake Lanier. I just thought that was a cool picture to show and wanted to show it to you. Next slide. All right, just wanted to put a mark in the calendar for everyone. This is our 4th or 5th Sweep the Hooch event that we've done in Sugar Hill. We always partner with Gwinnett County. Vanessa Butts has been the lead for that for many, many years. Our next Sweep the Hooch is on March the 23rd. Registration begins on February the 14th. And I would encourage you, if you have an interest in kind of volunteering for this event, to go ahead and get signed up, because there is a capacity limit and they do fill up very, very quickly. This is the area that we're actually going to be doing. This is Richland Creek. It's behind the Primrose Creek subdivision. This acreage, 30 acres, was actually given to us by Fisher Homes. We, as you know, have had a vision for Sugar Hill Greenway for a long time, and they knew that and dedicated this property to us for potential greenway access at some point in the near future. In addition to that, they contributed $500,000 to the city to go towards the construction and a possible just a pedestrian bridge over Richland Creek. And just wanted to show that it's a pretty piece of green space. And the next picture is just actually a picture that I took last week when we were scouting for the Sweep the Hooch event. I had the opportunity to walk Richland Creek. It's a beautiful piece of property, but there has been some dumping on it over the years, unfortunately, and there are a lot of tires and things that need to be removed. And so the Sweep the Hooch event will be focused on getting a lot of that out of there and making the property look even better. Next slide. Next, I just wanted to mention a couple of 5Ks that we've had, that we have had and will have in downtown Sugar Hill. I participated in the Chili Willy 5K, which was the first time that it was held here. It was sponsored by the Sugar Hill Distillery. We had about 470 runners that came out that morning. It happened to be an extremely cold morning, but everybody had a great time. And I get comments all the time that I just post pictures of 5Ks that I actually don't run them. And I just wanted to show everybody that I did run. I did run that 5K, and actually came in first in my age group for men. So I did. All right. So wasn't intending to brag about that at all. We do have some more 5Ks that are coming up on my next slide. I just wanted to bring your attention to the Sour Patch 5K. That's an annual tradition that's hosted by Indio Brewing. That'll be on March the 16th, and then the Sweet Treat 5K, which is provided by Scoops, will be on the 17th. But for whatever reason, they always do it Saturday and Sunday, and they always do it together. When you get finished with the Sour Patch 5K, you actually get a sour beer. So you can have a sour beer in the morning, and then they give you an ice cream at the end of the Sweet Treat 5K. Lastly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Bowman's Island Bridge. Some of you have probably heard that they replaced the bridge after many, many years. That hiking trail, which is actually on the other side of the Chattahoochee River, has been closed for a long time. And a lot of people in this community hike those trails around Bowman's Island. And so very, very exciting project. In that picture with me is Ann Honius. She is the superintendent for the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. We have been working really hard to develop a strong relationship with the National Park Service, because they have so many plans for that area, which would give our residents access to hiking, fishing, bird watching, and kayaking, and just various other activities. And so we want to make sure that we are actively engaged with them. And this will be an important part of the Riverlands Authority, their responsibility, and the master plan that we'll be doing in the near future. And so just wanted to encourage everybody, as we get closer to warmer weather, encourage everybody to get out and hike some of the trails in that area, because it's a beautiful area. I think that's the end of it. Appreciate y'all listening to my report. Next, we'll move on to the city clerk, Ms. Whittington.
Thank you, Mayor. Just Wanted to update that the city issued 165 passports in the month of January. And if you plan on traveling in the upcoming spring or summer, you can book your passport appointment online at the city's website or call the customer service, the main number, and they'll help you book an appointment to get your passport. It is by appointment only. We also issued 10 new business licenses. We have a total of 992 businesses that renewed this year. The 10 new ones included service companies, consultants, a landscape company, a home health care, and a contractor, to name a few of them. And the city has a few employment opportunities available in street maintenance, custodian, and the marshals on the overnight shift. And in speaking about the co-op, the city accepts a donation on the gas bill that goes for people in need during the winter months and the other months when the gas bills are high. If they want to, if you know anyone that needs help with their gas bill during this time, they can go to the co-op to qualify, and the co-op will give them a voucher to come to the city and get some help with their utility bill, their gas bill only. So if you know anybody, send them that way. That pool of money is only used for that purpose. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Whittington. Next up is our city manager, Mr. Radford.
Thank you, Mayor. I refer everybody to our monthly review that was available when you came in tonight. And if you got any questions about it, just to give us a call. We'll be glad to tell you what's going on if this isn't clear enough. In Gold Mine Park, we've added a new pavilion, and I'm really proud that that pavilion was constructed by our own in-house staff, particularly our Director of Public Works, Joe Appling, and his crew with the gas department and the street department, saving the city a lot of money. But it's a great addition to Gold Mine Park. It's good to see all of our parks being extraordinarily busy, even in the middle of the winter. Our East Center now has 20,534 members, which is an amazing number considering we've got about 28,000 people in the city, but it is an opportunity for every family to get involved in the East Center gym and gym equipment. I would not come over about 11 o'clock on a Wednesday when yoga is being held because I'm there. It's a fun, get involved if you want to. It's we got great academies, great leagues, as well as great instructors. February 18th, we'll see the ice rink close down for the year. So far, they've had about 23,000 skaters out there, and it's great to see that busy on the nights that it's open. Our golf course continues to do well, even in the winter months. And I wanted to thank Councilman Page for his comments about the marshals. When we started the Marshals Department, one of the primary missions was community policing and outreach, and thinking that has investment in youth pays long-term dividends, and they've been very, very active in the schools and the churches and the civic organizations. But if you need help, the numbers on their vehicles, you can also just email shmarshall@cityofsugarhill.com, and they're always monitoring that, as well as call the number 770-932-2532. They are out there constantly doing patrols of downtown, all of our parks, all of our assets. They go into residential areas and businesses and parks as well. So if you see them, wave at them. They'll talk to you. Soon in our downtown, we will be starting to enforce our parking ordinance. We adopted it several years ago. We've been issuing just citations that don't have any kick to them. But we will soon start enforcing that. We'll do a 30 to 60 day warning when people are violating that, but then
fines will start going in place after that. So if you're parking, it's in downtown area where our parking restrictions are published on signs. I want to thank our Players Guild. They started last weekend with the Diary of Anne Frank. It goes through this weekend as well. Great group of volunteers who put on just fantastic productions. This one's very moving, obviously, and I encourage you, if you have time, go see it. And our own in-house children's theater, the Onstage Children's Theater, will present A Wrinkle in Time at the Eagle on February 24th. And then our Broad Street Jazz Band will be bringing in Joe Grandison and his 16-piece big band for a critically acclaimed Sinatra and Friends concert at the Eagle Theater. If you haven't heard it, it's a fantastic evening. It's on February 29th. Tickets are available for that. And then we honored some important people in our community, the many, many volunteers that provide countless hours of making our community better. We had our award function here recently, the Volunteer of the Year Award, the Susan Roebuck Community Champion Award, and then the Business Champion Award. Our small business community champion was Indio Brewing. Congratulations to them, one of our own homegrown businesses that is in the East Center. The Volunteer of the Year was Faye Sisson. Faye, congratulations. And then, and then the Susan Roebuck Community Champion was Nicola Brown. These folks and these businesses do so many things to make our community better. If you go down Broad Street and you see that there's a vacancy on West Broad, we do have a new business that will be moving in to where Pears M was, that is Lily's Boutique, and they will be offering an array of clothing, home decor, skincare, candles, and more. We're really excited about them becoming part of our downtown fabric. And I see some folks here from the Downtown Development Authority. If you don't want to clean the hooch or you want to get prepared for that, then I would encourage you to come out at 9 a.m. on March 9th to help with our downtown cleanup that is organized by the Downtown Development Authority. And with that, I'll turn it over to, with your permission, Mayor, to Troy Besesh, Assistant City Manager for a Construction and Public Works update. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Besesh.
Just very quickly, I want to point out a couple of Public Works items on the report. Just to mention that in addition to constructing pavilions, we do regular public works and utility activity. So you'll see that we did add 71 transmitters to our automated meter reading system in January. That brings the total number of counts we can read through this automated system up to 10,315. So we're very close to achieving total capability of reading all the meters. So we're just under 2,000 away from that number, and we do hope to get there pretty soon. That keeps our meter readers safe and out of backyards and harm's way. You'll also see that there were 107 truckloads of bag clippings collected in January. We'll be transitioning back to right-of-way maintenance and mowing here pretty soon, so we'll be doing less pavilion construction and moving on to some other traditional public works activities. I do want to call your attention to the note on the report, which reminds you that dumpsters are available for rent, and those are for certain limited items, bulk items that you may want to dispose of that you don't want to put at the curb necessarily, but you can call the number on the report and order one of those. I do want to touch on a few construction updates for you just very briefly. And I want to highlight a few of those. Just a quick update on the Alton Tucker Boulevard realignment project. We did put down the first layer of asphalt on the road connection, and this realigns Alton Tucker to tie into Highway 20 on the location shown on the screen. This shows some of the paving activity going on towards the end of last week. There were some soft spots down in the lower part of the image that had to be cut out and replaced. And then you'll also see the realigned intersection with West Broad tying into Alton Tucker, just at the east end of the E-Center Gymnasium. We are working with Georgia Power on relocation of a couple of poles and other conflicts. So before we can open that section of road, we'll finish that utility relocation work. You'll see some paving activity from a week ago, that image. I want to touch on a few other pedestrian-related projects. The First Avenue sidewalks are substantially complete, and this is on the south side of First Avenue, on the east side of PIB before you get to the railroad. So we did add a new section of sidewalk on that particular side. We'll be adding some other project elements in the coming months. We are working on coordination with Gwinnett County on the Highway 20 widening, and this is from Buford Highway to Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. You'll see this is a rather old image, but it shows you the aerial photo and the area of the project limits. So they do anticipate widening most of the roadway in the existing right-of-way section, so towards the median, but they are adding a greenway enhanced sidewalk section on the south side of the road, and that will include a separate bridge connection. I think one of the council members mentioned taking their life in their own hands walking across the bridge over the railroad, and so there will be a separated section for that enhanced sidewalk section. They do anticipate letting that later this spring. So unfortunately, there will be some construction activity in this zone, so you'll want to be careful about that. Some of the upcoming projects that our project management team are working on is a greenway connection from Hillcrest, where it currently ties in at the townhomes and some other new construction, and this will take it north all the way up to Richland Creek Road. So the section in red on the map is the area we're looking at designing, and that will go to construction hopefully later this year. The green section on the lower end of the image, which may not be incredibly visible on the screen, unfortunately, is almost a mile of greenway construction completed by the two developers of those two tracks. So it connects Highway 20 with that section there. One of the future projects in the capital improvement plan will be to construct a trailhead on South Richland Creek Road. This will be at the north end of that greenway. This is a rendered potential site plan of what that might look like in that area. Mr. City Manager, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Radford's given me the nod, so I think that's the end of the city manager's report. Next, we will recognize the Youth Council to come up and give their report. Skylar, how are you? Good, welcome.
Hello, Mayor Council. My name is Skylar McLeod. I am the Mayor Pro Tem for the Sugar Hill Youth Council. And for the Youth Council report, we just signed up for the National League of Cities Conference, which is in Washington, D.C., and upcoming in March. We are so excited for it. It's such a great opportunity. It's such a great learning opportunity, and we look forward to it every year. And I'm super excited about it, especially since it's my last year doing it. Also, I just wanted to highlight one of our Youth Council members, Leron. He actually got accepted into the YDPC, and that is the Youth Delegate Planning Committee, which means he will be working with teams across the nation to actually plan the youth sessions that are going to be going on in National League of Cities, so we're super proud of him. And every year, we actually do have someone that ends up on YDPC, so that's just a great accomplishment for our Youth Council. And also, we are grading up for the Department Head Toastmasters upcoming in April, and we can't wait to meet with our city staff to actually learn more about what makes our city our city. And also, I just wanted to say Happy Black History Month to everyone, and Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Ms. McLeod.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to move on to citizens and guest comments. This is an opportunity for someone to express their opinion about something that's happening in the city. Each person has up to 3 minutes. And I will say, just as a reminder, that we are going to have a public hearing on Envision 100. So if you were going to make a comment on that, you can save it for later. But is there anyone that would like to take advantage of this public comment time? Yes, Mr. January.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is James January, and I live at 1282 Frontier Drive. One thing I wanted to bring up is I noticed a change or difference between the online agenda for tonight with regard to the Envision 100 and what's printed here in the agenda that you handed out. And that is the fact that the online agenda indicated that it was going to be voted on as an ordinance. Is that not the case? I guess.
I really don't know, to be honest with you. I can ask. That's what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not what's on the printed agenda, is it? It just says the public hearing. Because I had some concerns about that, using, approving as an ordinance. The other thing, though, is also quickly, something happened at the work session last Monday, a week ago, and it had to do with the discussion over the traffic light, proposed traffic light at Stanley Street. And one of the things that it seemed to be made clear to me, and I think I confirmed it later on with one of the members, is that the new members seem to be completely unaware of the document, the traffic study that Mr. Anderson was waving around during that discussion. And the greater problem to that is that seems to be a trend that I see happening to the new members of the council, that they're kept in the dark or that they don't get all the information that they need. There's a lot of carryover between the old and the new council on things that are happening like Envision 100, like these traffic studies and all these kinds of things. And I think it behooves whoever is responsible for that in the city, members of the council, employees of the city, Mr. Adford, whoever is responsible for that, to make sure that these folks are brought up to speed. We elected them. They deserved to be at the same level that the rest of the council is when it comes to making these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. January. Is there anybody else that would like to make public comment? All right, we will close that out. We have no consent agenda. We have no old business. We do have 6 items under new business, and first up would be the Envision 100 Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Awana, would you present that to us?
Yes, so for the Envision 100 plan adoption, we are required to hold several public hearings. This would be the last in the months-long process that we took in developing the plan. A total of 3. We're required to have 2. The community really came out strong on this project. I'm really proud of the work that we did as a community, as a team. My team of planners, Claire and Logan, did really excellent work, and I'm proud of the outreach that we were able to do and the steering committee's involvement and just the diversity of the group that we were able to assemble to do the work. I have some slides if we could put those up. Maybe I'm not connected here.
Please do, Mr. Awana. I know that you gave a presentation, or I believe you gave a presentation during the work session, but please go ahead and do it again if you'd like.
So I thought I would start with kind of reminding everybody what the vision statement was that we built on the conversations that we had in community and the public involvement in the process. so where we landed on that. And Sugar Hill in 2039 will be a community where multiple generations choose to plant roots. Residents and business leaders work together to create a thriving hometown for living out all of life stages. From growing up and establishing a career to raising children and retiring, Sugar Hill will be a place where all can flourish. And there's lots of content in between the vision statement and the work program, but this is kind of the last piece that we put together, and kind of some of the remaining things to put into place. So we presented the plan and a draft work program at the December City Council meeting and initiated the regional review process. Went through that with the Department of Community Affairs and the Atlanta Regional Commission. Had a round of comments in January. We responded to those. And what I'm going to do is kind of summarize those last revisions that we did to get to the place where we have a plan that is endorsed by DCA, Department of Community Affairs, for us to be able to adopt. And I could have presented this a little more clearly in the steps before, so we made a concerted effort to, with detail, kind of show all those pieces, how they fit together in the published document. I'm not going to go through all those, I'm just going to hit the highlights. But those details are there to show the continuity from the December plan, the version of the plan, to the current plan that we're presenting tonight. So this community work program is an aspirational list of projects that can be undertaken to advance the shared vision described in the plan. It's organized by category of service delivery. It provides an estimated breakdown of the time and monetary investments that each project might require. The following program elements and estimated costs do not represent an established budget or funding commitment, and they may be delivered by both private and public sector solutions. And what we've done is we've taken, let me back up one more and just say that, again, this is not a budgeting document. This is a document that lays out what the planned investments might be for a list of projects that we could undertake in achieving the vision that we've kind of written out in the rest of the plan. So those in the regional review, the Department of Community Affairs asked us to describe the status of certain work program items in the 2019 plan and the previously adopted comprehensive plan that we either had listed as underway or postponed. They just wanted us to describe why those were postponed or underway. And we had just inadvertently omitted those, many of them, from the updated work plan in the latest comprehensive plan. So we took, in the final version, we took all those items, collected them at the top, and put a green flag on them. In total, there were 10 items that we copied from the 2019 plan to give that continuity between the plans. 9 of them involve staff time only as an investment, and 1 of them added $25,000 for to master plan a commercial corridor along Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. So that's 10 items total, 9 staff time only, and 1 was an additional expense outside of the investment that staff time is. represents. We had a handful of other items that we added some clarifying text. For example, in one of the sections, we had just downtown public parking and no explanation of what we were going to do with that public parking. So we just added those kind of operational terms, coordinate, additional, or complete, where there was just missing detail in what that work program was describing. So all of these items were presented in the December version of the plan, went through that review process with the community, were submitted to the Department of Community Affairs, and we didn't add anything, we just added clarity through the text. So with that, my presentation is finished, unless you have questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wana. I will ask if there are any questions of City Council before we move forward towards public comment. Ms. Avery.
Yes, I have a question. I did basically the same thing this weekend. I pulled up the community work program that was presented in December, and then pulled up the one that was presented in February, because at that time, until right now, until then, I did not know what the difference between the two was. And I noticed in your presentation just now, you said you only added one additional expense, the one for $25,000, and when under the land use section, the master plan for development along PIB, you mentioned that one. That was added for the years 2026 and 27 for $25,000. When I went through the plan, under the section, let me find it here, under the section for natural and cultural resources, I went through that line item, and I found a new program that says, develop a Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And I didn't see that in the December one. And that was added under the year 2024 for $50,000. And the funds listed, the possible funds listed were for SPLOST. And I did notice also in that same section that there is a invest in a public art master plan for $50,000 for 2026 and 2027. So am I correct in that there were actually two new additions?
I don't believe you are, ma'am. I think that both those items were in the December 8th document.
Obviously, that's
Mr. Perkle, when someone wishes to speak, they need to be acknowledged through me, and that's in our ordinances, and if you don't mind, I just want to make sure that we, so let's let Ms. Avery finish hers, and then we'll move on to some to you. We can also move on if you want to take a moment to look through your documents.
Okay, I only printed out the one from February, and I highlighted that.
It's okay, and if it's something significant, I mean,
Okay.
we can certainly deal with it, but if not, let's move.
Okay.
All right, is there somebody else that'd like to ask a question?
Well,
Yes, sir.
what I was going to add there is these are long documents, and it'll be helpful when there are changes like that, if those could be obviously made quite clear. There was a discussion, the January letter, which I don't know if the rest of the council members got notice of. I didn't get notice of that in January, where they requested some updates. Those updates were sent back from council, or not from the council, from the staff. So it would be good to know that those sort of things are taking place. A comment that was made at the start of the work session, where it says these are merely plans and estimates of things that could be, yet in that letter from the DCA, I believe it was, they were talking about things that are missing that were in previous plans. So obviously that set some sort of expectation that those be carried through. Tonight, we were only discussing, at least in the presentation, the work program, which is good. The previous presentation focused on the other items in there. And I think the majority of the document, which I agree with, the first basically 50 pages of the document, which sets about the plans for the city, can basically be summarized in the way I see it as two things, basically, that the residents didn't like apartments and they do like green space. And I think that was quite clear in the comments, and I can get behind both of those sentiments. In terms of the actual work program itself, it's $42 million in new spending there. $5 million to address downtown parking with a new deck that we haven't even let the paint dry basically on, baby. The amphitheater, $5 million in spending on that. Pedestrian bridge, $6 million spending. I just felt some of those were fairly excessive in light of $46 million in debt. Certainly you do have to plan and move forward with those, but I think debt management is an essential part of it. I attended as many of these meetings as were open, and I was there for. Certainly there were several meetings that you had to register for, and so I can't claim to have been at all of those. They were broken down by individual groups. I did go to those. In those, I did not hear discussions of funding level or debt, which I think obviously work hand in hand on those. So I think those are something that needs to be addressed. But as I said before, I agree with the sentiment of basically the first 50 pages or so on discussion. And I think the staff did a great job on those. No complaints there. But I do have concerns about committing to these levels of spending.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Is there anybody else that has a question? Yes, sir. Mr. Page.
Yeah, just one question. I think it's going to be for Mr. Basesh. Regarding the natural and cultural resources, do we, maybe you and I have talked about this in passing, do we already have a Parks and Rec master plan that we're finalizing as of right now? Is that correct?
I think they're finishing up the work on that.
Okay. Any ETA on when we'll get that? Might be a... Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page, for that clarification. That was actually started a long time ago, and it was a priority of mine when I came in as mayor, and so I'm excited about it being almost done. So appreciate the question. Anybody else have a comment or a question before we open up public comment? All right. I'll make a comment because I think it's important, but this is a vision document. It's not a budget document. It doesn't commit us to any funds. These are priorities that the community has given to us, and it'd be a shame to take those out of the work plan because it's what the community has asked for. Mr. Perkle's right. A lot of people have complained about apartments, and I can understand that. No new apartments have actually been approved since I've been the mayor. And so we've had 2 years of no new apartments, and it's time to move on to focus on something else. And the other aspect of this whole input was that people really, really, really wanted us to invest in and focus on parks, recreation, and green space. And so guess what? We loaded Envision 100 up with that. And even though this is not a budget document, I can guarantee you that outside developers and interested parties, they look at our master plan because they want to fit into it. I gave you an example earlier during my presentation of Fisher Homes, that because we had established a vision for the Sugar Hill Greenway, they decided that they were going to donate us property for that and contribute funds towards it. If we had not had that vision in place, they wouldn't have known about it, and honestly, they wouldn't have decided to partner with us on the project. And so I just want to clarify a few things. And I won't talk about our revenue bonds that we have, because it's just too complicated to bring up tonight. But Envision 100 has nothing to do with any debt that we have as a city. Again, it's a vision statement that has been provided to us by the residents of Sugar Hill. And so thank you for letting me have the last word before we move on to public comment. I'm now going to open that up. I think we have a lot of people here that want to make a comment. There's actually no time limit on this type of comment from what I understand, but I just want to encourage everybody, if someone before you has said something that you intend to say, you might want to just say that I agree with the person before me. But appreciate everybody. Who would like to come up first to make public comment? Yes. And if you could just give your name and address, that's just the process that we go.
Okay. My name is Katrina Coker. I live at 1022 Level Creek Road, apartment 610. So with that being said, I am a renter. I'm also originally from Sugar Hill. My family's been in the area for 40 plus years. I went to preschool, elementary, middle, and high school here, so just for context, as well as I actually just finished reading the Envision 100 report, all 52 pages, line by line, for that context as well. And I first want to affirm that that the report, it was actually very well done. Just that the method was clearly outlined, the number of parties who participated, the methods they were participated in, as well as the needs and opportunities and next steps. Even I appreciated the last part of the work program being outlining what the specific action item is and the status of it. One part of the report, key takeaway that I wanted to comment on, I actually have a question about an ask of you, is that if you were to, whether you oppose or deny it, the question to clarity of apartments were mentioned, and it is clear that people have questions about apartments. So what is defined as a small apartment, medium apartment, large apartment? That there's different sections that are a part of that. And what is being offered for affordable housing? So some of the things that were mentioned of that, there are more opportunities like workforce housing, but what other things are being done to outlay that? And on that context, specific key takeaway I thought was interesting about the number of parties in home. So like myself, I am a party of one with my 2 cats, and that there's a large number of people who don't need 3 bedrooms. I think that was specifically called out. So whether it's apartments or single family unattached homes, how do we maximize the amount of space as well as minimize the amount of our rent or mortgage to make it more affordable? The other ask is if you, first of all, I approve, how do I say it? I'm supportive of the Envision 100. If you are opposed, I am looking for what you are specifically opposed, since I did read it line by line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Coker. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Yes, sir. Welcome. And please give your name and address for the record.
Mr. Mayor and member of the City Council, good evening. My name is J. Gregory Mendoza, and I live at 986 Whitehead Road. Many of our nation's cities are deteriorating because the leaders, whether they be elected governors, mayors, or city council members, don't have a vision and do not care about improving their cities. The wisest man on the face of the earth once said, where there is no vision, the people perish, or a city will perish. Our city council leaders have had a vision for our city for the past 10 years. They have not only had a vision, but they have acted on the vision. They have planned to make our city better. They have made many improvements, built nice monuments like the Veteran Monument, nice restaurant, pizza place, coffee shop, and I'm looking forward for the Starbucks cafe. something for everybody to enjoy. It is great that we don't have to go far to enjoy live music, concerts, and many family activities. In fact, sometimes I think of Sugar Hill like Motown, where there is music, beautiful music. My wife and I, as a grandparent, enjoy having our 10 grandchildren visit, and they look forward to hanging out in our city. Good city help those in need. Good cities improve its street. Good city improve its sidewalk. Good city have park. Good city have great entertainment. Our city council has shared the continuing vision of our city to improve our sidewalk, park, and green space. We need to support them in making our city better for our children and grandchildren. I ask you to support the Envision 100 plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Yes, sir. Please come up. I didn't even have to ask. How are you? Welcome.
Clifton Pruitt, 5223 Sugar Ridge Drive. I just want to say, continue what you're doing. The vision started 20, 30 years ago, has resulted in this. The pictures of downtown Sugar Hill that all of us real estate agents put on our listings, because it's not about the house. It's about the amenities here. We're 1 mile away. A little house on Roosevelt's for $420 grand right now for 1,400 square feet. You've got houses going up to $1 million right now. Continue that. It takes vision and it takes a while to build it and to get there. And I know for, like, say, a bridge at $4 or $5 million, that's a house in Buckhead. And yes, you can ask the police. Drunk driving is frowned upon now, but if somebody bolts that light and cleans out your crowd, $5 million is nothing. It really is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Basis, and I live at 5107 Sunset Drive in Sugar Hill. I'm old, and I've lived in a couple of places. And I was very involved in Lawrenceville many, many years ago. The Business and Professional Women's Club of Lawrenceville was started back when Rotary wouldn't let women join. And those women were older than I, and they had the hope that Lawrenceville could remain just as it was when they were young women. That hope resulted in 10 or 15 years of deterioration in Lawrenceville because they did not realize that the world had changed and people wanted to have amenities close to home and to be able to have parks, recreation, and restaurants near home. It takes a vision like Envision 100 to do that. Lawrenceville elected Judy Jordan, and I'm a great fan, and they started to change the way they were doing things, and they have a vibrant downtown and have begun to see property values rise again. I understand and I appreciate the new members being concerned about our budget and our physical responsibilities. However, I think taking the work plan out of this document would be a mistake. It gives us an idea of where we're going, and we do want to go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Susan. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Yes, sir. And I always hate to ask you to give your name and address, but I know you know to do it anyway. So welcome, sir.
James January, 1282 Frontier Drive. Before I start on my comments, I do want to recognize Lee Thompson. Mr. Thompson and I go back some 33 years, whether he wants to go back with me that far or not. And unfortunately, some of the darker days of Sugar Hill and the landfill fights that went on back then, I do want to comment that Both of us had different color hair back then. Both of our hair is gray now, but he still has a heck of a lot more of his than I have of mine. So, but good to see you, Lee. First of all, let me say that I think the Envision 100 document is an excellent document. It's obvious people put a lot of time into it, a lot of effort into it, a lot of different folks put time and effort into it, a lot of research was done, and I think everyone involved, and I don't know if Kaipo was the spearhead on that, but whoever was, and certainly he and among them should receive the credit for all that they put into that. It's a very good document. There are a lot of things that I like about it. I like seeing this document used as a guideline for moving forward. One of the things that is brought out in the document is the fact that we really have a pretty limited amount of undeveloped land to grow on. And so I think, obviously, as is mentioned in the document, we have to be very careful about how we utilize that land. I think that because of that, we have to be very careful. We need to make sure we use every tool. And one of the things I wish it had spent a little bit more time and type, if you will, to addressing the issues of the fact that we have such a limited amount of land and how we're going to use that and use it so that we get the smart, proper, controlled growth that we're looking for, that we don't wind up with the mess, the overcrowding, the traffic problems, and all the other things that seems to be going on in some of the other sections of Gwinnett County. I'll allude, in fact, to all that's going on up around the Hamilton Mill area, where those folks are looking at creating their own city because they want to have more control. I want to make sure that and I have concerns that the document does properly, to the right level, address how we move forward specifically, through zoning ordinances, however it might be. Some things I do like about it, of course, there's some comments about older neighborhoods, which is near and dear to my heart, Frontier Forest, and protecting those neighborhoods, protecting the integrity of those neighborhoods, and sustainability of those neighborhoods. Also, one of the things that's mentioned in there, and I think was mentioned at the work session last week, was how do we address the issue of low-cost housing? That's a real problem. It's a horrible problem in Gwinnett County. It's obviously a real problem even here in Sugar Hill. I think, frankly, some of these older homes and some of these older neighborhoods might be an opportunity to help address that. There was some discussion about making, and I don't remember the exact wording, but maintaining the appearance and things, if you will, of our older neighborhoods and things like that. And, of course, obviously, the specific homes in those neighborhoods. But can some of those older homes then be used in part to address, as they become available, this issue of low-cost housing? It's a real need. Even the apartments that folks in, I don't know what the lady page where she's at, but, some of the rents in these places are ridiculous. My kids' rent has gone up. I think it's almost doubled in the apartment they live. They live in a Buford apartment, but it's doubled in the 5 years or so that they've lived there. It's ridiculous. So again, I want to see our older neighborhoods maintained. And one of the things I will more specifically mention that, we talk about single-family neighborhoods. And I want to make sure that we continue to enforce or reinforce the idea that if it's a single-family neighborhood, there's single-family homes and there should be a single family living in them, okay? There are a few things I don't like about the thing. Obviously, I don't like this pedestrian bridge. I don't think it's necessary. I think it really only serves one apartment community, which the citizens shouldn't be paying for that. If the developers want it, they should be paying for that. There's some other things, some concerns about some of the amount of money spent that are very kind of vague discussions. And I understand these are estimates and things like that and guidelines. But I'd like to see maybe there have been a little bit more support for some of those specific elements of the thing. But overall, I think it's a great document. Obviously, we got to have something to go forward with, and this should be a good way to go. The part of it that I mentioned earlier during the comments that I am concerned about is approving this document as an ordinance. That has a connotation to me that's disturbing in the fact that if it's an ordinance at law, that means that anything within it is in effect codified And Mr. Thompson, you can correct me, but then the only way that can be changed then is by some change to the code or some new code. I think folks, the citizens today, the citizens tomorrow, the councils today and tomorrow must have a great amount of flexibility. They must use this as a guideline, but they must also have the ability without, having to go get a new code approved to make changes as time and circumstances demand. Only in that way, I think, can it be really a document that's useful to the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Janeway. Great comments. Yes. Next, we have someone headed up here. Welcome.
So my name is Chandra Brandel, and I live at 5010 West Broad Street, apartment 3401. Just walked right across the street tonight. It was very convenient. But I didn't always live there. I've been a Sugar Hill resident since 1996. I lived in a single-family neighborhood. I had a single family. My kids grew up, and I became an empty nester. And I wanted to stay in my community. Didn't want to mow the grass anymore. Didn't want the upkeep of a house. But I wanted to stay where I had put down roots, where I had raised my family, where I had a community. And I was able to do that because of the vision that the leaders of the city have had in the past that allowed us to have downtown and had housing for me downtown where I could stay here and be a part of Sugar Hill. As far as affordability, I'm a teacher, educator here in Gwinnett County. And when Mayor Hembry spoke at a recent city event, I think it was the State of the City address, you talked about the median income in the city of Sugar Hill. My income is actually less than that. But because I budget wisely, and I'm very in tune with what's going on with budgeting, I am able to afford the apartment across the street and stay in my community. So I do feel like some of the points that have been made tonight about affordable housing are valid, because we do have other people, especially our educators that live and work in this community. They would like to be able to live here and be affordable. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brandel. Is there anybody else? Yes, we have competition is good. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Hembry and council. My name is Kyle Mendoza. I live at 5117 Sunset Drive. A little bit about me and how Sugar Hill has impacted me. I became an official resident of Sugar Hill and a first-time home buyer by the end of 2022. By February of 2023, I proposed to my wife at the Bowl. By November, we were married right here in downtown Sugar Hill, Eagle Theater to be exact. And our rehearsal was at Waterfall Room. My wife, being a country girl from Jessup, Georgia, told me how she would love to grow and live here in Sugar Hill for the rest of our lives. And yes, it was one of the many reasons why I wanted to marry her. As I can tell you by a short pass, we love the city. And we plan on growing in our marriage and raising our children here, our future children, that is. Before Mayor Hembry and before the council members that believe in progress, I never knew about Sugar Hill, and I grew up here my entire life. And now, recently, we have learned that what we love about the city is at risk. We took part in online surveys and participated in the walk-in open houses offered. We appreciate a city that listens to their people, and we believe in the Vision 100 plan. We believe that it is a way for citizens to voice what they would like to see in their city and everything that everyone could want. I mean, we love walking our dog here to the parks. It's our dream to be here, our dream come true. If Vision 100 is not voted on, we are very worried that our voice is unheard, unwanted, and unappreciated. I strongly ask that you approve the Envision 100 plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. And next, yes, sir.
Good evening, Terry Allen. My wife and I live at 244 Highland Roseway in Brighton Park, and I have an observation and a thanks. The observation is, I was here a couple of months ago when you did this state of the city, and your budget was as balanced as a budget that I've ever seen. And you should share your business model. There's more cities that aren't doing as good as that. So the thanks is, I appreciate your push on the parks and the greenways. The entire country is going that way. Atlanta is one of the number at the highest of greenways and mobility around the city, and it's attracting a lot of young folks. Y'all are doing a great job. I ride from Brighton Park to Peachtree Industrial almost every day and down to Swanee, and I'd be tickled to death to keep riding around here. So thanks, you guys are doing a great job. Keep pushing on that. It just drags more young people into the thing because that's the first question they ask. Do we have access to greenways? Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that wishes to make public comment? Yes.
Go ahead. Evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Josh Mendoza. I'm at 985 Whitehead Road. Yes, another Mendoza. But what I love is that we have all these different generations, from my dad to my little brother, and I'm right there in between. Probably closer to my little brother, but we won't talk about it. I am a native Gwinnetian, and I'm proud to say that, and only people who grew up in Gwinnett even know what that is. I brought my family from Lilburn, Georgia to Sugar Hill 15 years ago to teach at North Gwinnett High School in the autism program. I've been married to my wife for 17 years. We have 3 boys, ages 12, 10, and 7. And when choosing where to live close to North Gwinnett High School, I chose Sugar Hill because of the comprehensive plan that was in place at the time. My wife grew up in a small town called Cedartown, Georgia. That city had no plan in place, and the young people of that city moved away, essentially causing the city to become a ghost town with no activities for the community. We were excited to be a part of the Envision 100 plan and follow in the footsteps of those who created the last comprehensive plan to help create this great city. We completed the online survey. We attended the open house in which we contributed to the poster activities. Our family felt like we were heard. So if we're not approving the Envision 100 plan, then we're basically saying that the priorities are above those of the citizens. So I ask you to approve the Envision 100 plan that the citizens have been actively involved in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Is there anybody else that wishes to make public comment?
Good evening. Andrew Schultz, 5350 Windswept Trace, Sugar Hill, Georgia. Don't have a real problem with the plan. I just wish that, or hope, that we would actually follow something. I do remember the comprehensive plan from 2019 because that was about when I got involved in trying to stop the townhomes from being built down here in between the animal hospital and our subdivision, the Springs. It said in the comprehensive plan that single-family homes would be a priority. And then I come to find out that really wasn't the idea, that things were going to be done the way that they saw it to be done, not the way it was worded. Even though it fell within this downtown business development area or whatever, which now borders our subdivision. Had the opportunity last week with one of my neighbors to walk over there and visit the first 6 of the townhomes that have been erected behind my neighbor's house, and walked up to the top floor on one of them and was able to look at this guy's roof and down into his kitchen. So there's a little problem with some of the things and some of the wording. I do appreciate a council member bringing up building height as far as what it concerned with the townhome or said apartment. It's difficult. We can measure the cupola upstairs here, but there's something right next door that is a monster towering over this thing. So there's a lot of things as far as understanding how much it costs to live in Sugar Hill now, how much our property taxes are, how much everything is costing everyone. And I fully understand the amount of money people are having to pay to live right now. So it's very difficult for a retired person to sit here and go, I need to spend $5 million on a bridge, or I need to spend this on a park. We do have some nice parks. I've enjoyed them. I've got a grandson. The other thing you guys probably don't realize is a lot of people aren't able to afford places, young people especially. And these homes that you say we're trying to age in place, we're having to take our relatives in and provide a place for them to live because of the cost. They can't afford these apartments over here. They can't afford these over here. So there's a lot of things that are at play right now, and I hope as we move forward, whether you adopt this plan or not, we maintain an idea and some semblance of what Sugar Hill used to be. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Is there anybody else that wishes to make comment? Yes, sir.
Evening, Mike Riley, 692 Van Brigg Path, the ugliest street name in the city. Thank you all for your passion for what you're doing. It's clear you all care about the city very much. One thing, just a note on the plan itself, it mentions many of the items are possibly paid for by SPLOST. It doesn't actually spell out what SPLOST is. Now, I know what it stands for, but if it's a county SPLOST, et cetera, I think it'd just be good to spell it out clearly for what that source really means to those who don't know what a SPLOST is. And then on the other front, just as we reflect on these improvements, I'm particularly concerned about the Greenway, just believe it or not, from a functional perspective. So as a teacher in the high school and somebody who lives on the other side of town, I actually see a utilitarian view of this for a lot of our kids to get back and forth to school. So as I see them leaving the high school, the First Avenue improvements, while not a part of this Envision plan, it could literally be a lifesaver. So as we're looking at these things, I'd like to just make sure that we look at them as functional and not just recreational. Because I do see some kids walking from behind the church in the townhouses to go home in the evenings. This might be their safe route home. So just, it's not just for fun, it could be really useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. I was laughing about SPLOST because it is, when you say it all out, it's hard to say, but it's Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, and it is Gwinnett County. And that's why everybody shortens it to SPLOST, because that's a lot to say. But you make a great point, and thank you for that. All right, is there any other public comment? Yes. And I think we can have someone come up twice. Is that okay?
That was a question.
I don't think there's a rule on it, so
All right,
you're
well,
welcome.
just in case, my name's Katrina Coker,
Yes, ma'am.
1022 Level Creek Road, apartment 610. Actually, a clarifying question based off of the ordinance question. If this is, and I am still am supportive of the Vision 100, but to Councilmember Perkle's question as well as ordinance as to if it's an ordinance, how, and this is not a budget, how does the finances all fit into this? So if somebody could clarify that, that would be.
I'll answer it, and Lee can chime in. It is required to be an ordinance. That's my understanding. And work plans can actually be changed annually. So, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, you're required to submit this to the state. It's required to be approved by the city, so you approve it as an ordinance and send it to them. It can be modified by the council, just like any ordinance can be at any time by the vote of the city council, and you are required to update it on and I have to look to CACO, I think it's every 5 years. Is that correct? No.
That's the answer. All right, any other public comment? All right, then I'll close out public comment. So we have Envision 100, the plan before us. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion and a comment. First off, I didn't say anything before public comment because I really wanted to hear from the community. The comp plan is a reflection completely of the community and not of city council. It is your vision for your city, and it is our job to implement that vision as best we can. So I really appreciate the comments. I understand the concerns over the costs. Most of those items, as was pointed out by several members of our community, those are SPLOST dollars. Those are already dollars that actually they voted on, or that we as a community voted on. We put forward those projects to the community as part of our, basically our covenant to this community is this is what we're going to spend those SPLOST dollars on. So, and that's a reflection back of what the community asked for and approved through the SPLOST vote. But And as Mr. Tucker pointed out, while this is an ordinance, it can be amended at any time, like any other ordinance that we have by the majority of council. It is not set in stone. As Mr. Awana put forth, it is an aspirational list of projects. Some of those projects may be funded by SPLOST, or we can find private partners to deliver some of those projects as well. There is no guarantee that any of them, all of them, none of them, any of them would be built or paid for by any certain funding mechanism. It's just a guide for us as a city council and for our staff, who are really the ones, as we saw, most of those are staff time. They're the ones that are really tasked with doing the heavy lifting. We just sit up here, a couple Mondays a month and pontificate. So with that, Mayor, I would like to make a motion to adopt the Envision 100 ordinance as presented. Do I need to read the whole ordinance, Mr. Tucker?
You do not.
Okay, so I'll just make a motion.
You can say to adopt the ordinance as I think is in everybody's packet, so.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance, the 2039 Envision 100 Comprehensive Plan as presented in our agenda.
All right, I have a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. Any further discussion before I call the vote?
I have a question. One of the things that I'm concerned about is I realize that it has been stated that this is not a budget and this is not set in stone, and that just because the community work programs are in here doesn't mean it has to be done. But what my concern is, it's in writing. And it seems to me that sometimes when we have meetings and we are making zoning decisions or making future plans, we bring up previous comprehensive plans from 2005 or from 2010 and say, well, it's in the plan, it has to be done. And not everything in the community work program is something that we agree on. So my concern is that if we approve this exactly the way that is written with the exact dollar amounts, and some of these projects are spread out over the 4 years. Some are specifically earmarked for this year. So my concern is once this is passed and it's an ordinance, then when it comes time to adopt something, the general consensus is going to be, well, it's in our vision and it's in the plan, so it must be done. And that's one of my concerns.
Ms. Avery, I feel like we've addressed your concern. I think we've answered the question about an ordinance and the fact that the monetary values in there are not binding. And so I don't know how to provide you any more clarification on that other than just saying that to you, and I think it's been said multiple times tonight. But I would like to make a comment about these documents are a community vision. And if we don't get them done, then we should have to answer why we don't get them done. So that's not a bailout that we can use to not put something in a plan that the community has asked for us to put in a plan. And I'm just being candid with you on that. Got it.
And I appreciate that, and I did go to some of the Envision 100 meetings and the roundtables, and I really appreciate all the work, all the time and effort that was put into this. It just was, I'd just like to point out that when all of these were discussed at the roundtables and communities, the price tags were not discussed at that time. So, but now they are. They're in the community work program.
And again, they're just estimates, but I do appreciate your comment. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion to adopt, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. It passes, right, Ms. Whittington? She usually says it.
Read it too.
Got it. Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to item number 2. Before we do that, I want to say thank you to everybody that came out tonight that provided comment. Regardless of the side, the best comments that I have heard in a long time. Thank you. Very valuable. Yes, sir.
Would you give me a moment of just an opportunity to say something about the comprehensive planning process? because I think this debate.
Mr. Radford, we have passed it and we're moving on, but I appreciate it.
Oh.
Item number 2.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Besesh.
Thank you, Mayor. At the work session, we reviewed a proposed contract for road resurfacing and repairs. With a proposal for the repairs and resurfacing to 16 different streets, which may or may not come up on the screen for you in the form of a map. Most of those are in the Frontier Forest neighborhood and Creek Bluff area. Let me give it one more shot, but if not, I'm just going to talk through it.
And Mr. Besesh, if you could speak into your microphone just a little bit better. I'm having trouble hearing you, and I'm not sure if people in the audience are either, but.
Sure. The 16 streets are part of the proposed contract for road resurfacing and repairs that we have put together in a bid package that was advertised in December. And then 10 bids were received on the 25th of January. We did receive those 10 bids from Garrett Paving, Georgia Paving, Allied Paving, Magnum, Blunt, Vertical Earth, Stewart, Baldwin, C.W. Matthews, and East Coast Paving. Those contractors are familiar with our requirements, have bid previously, and the low bid was from Garrett Paving, $541,870.49. The high bid was from East Coast Paving at $886,475.34. The proposed streets were included in our local maintenance and improvement grant program submittal to Georgia DOT. Those 12 streets had scores, pavement evaluation scores ranging from 32 for Creek Trace and Creek Bluff. And then they range to some of the better scoring streets like Hidden Circle Drive. We are proposing that all those streets be completed in this particular contract. And now the map has cooperated. So you'll see the average scores listed here. We do complete a pavement condition assessment, which is where those scores come from. The scores are represented graphically on this map. We do have to average different segments because each segment is scored differently, so the map doesn't always capture the actual result, and this is again from 2022. So we are, again, here's the bid results. Again, the range of values from these bid totals. We did check the references from Garrett. We did check their calculations. We believe they were able to complete the project to our satisfaction. One of the questions at the work session from Councilmember Anderson was the overall list of streets. So I did provide that in the packet. I'm not going to list it here. But we do evaluate each road and its condition on a recurring basis. I am going to be recommending that we do that annually rather than every 3 to 5 years. And then we have some proposals for the next iteration of this, which will include other repair methods other than milling and inlay. So that'll enable us to address some of the other roads that don't necessarily need repaving, just patching or a microsurfacing, I think is one of the methods that I mentioned. With that, the staff recommendation is to award the 2024 paving, resurfacing and repair contract to Garrett Paving.
Thank you, Mr. Besesh. Are there any questions from City Council of Mr. Besesh?
I have a few and some comments.
Yes, sir. Mr. Parker?
I'm certainly in favor of paving these streets. But I don't believe it goes far enough in terms of addressing our top 10 worst streets, right? I think we need to extend the amount of paving we're going to do this year. Don't want to hold up this contract for it. The question I have is this contract in any sort of way extensible, or do we just need to select the other streets and then do a whole new bid on that?
It's unit price base, and we can leave the contract open for the balance of 2024, so we could have the conclusion of the contract at December 31st if we choose to. I would suggest that we can put together another presentation next month with our next set of streets, and we can discuss repair.
That would be great.
Adding to it.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Anderson?
It's not necessarily a question so much as a comment, but after Monday, I thought we had a really productive dialogue up here on City Council about paving. So I had asked Mr. Besesh that maybe a good way to address some of the concerns that council has is to prepare an asphalt paving maintenance policy so that it would be more clear as to what we are going to do going forward. And I really appreciate Mr. Besesh providing that entire list of streets. That is an exhaustive list of streets and scoring. That provides a much better context to council to understand the scale of our roads that we have, that we're obligated to maintain, along with their conditions. So it's one thing that I suggested was maybe a policy, so that way it's clear for staff what the desire of council is. They would be very straightforward as to, if it's scoring at this level, perhaps milling and repaving is not appropriate, but it could go with sealing, maybe an appropriate way to extend the life of that pavement, and as a more budget-conscious type of effort. So anyway, I appreciate Mr. Besesh providing that additional documentation. That was very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Anybody else? All right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Mr. Perkle. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Page. Got in there just a little quicker. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Next, we'll move on to item number 3. That is Mr. Besesh as well.
Okay, thank you. This is a request to approve the reimbursement resolution and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement related to governing expenditures for state and local government costs related to our landfill post-closure monitoring expenses. We are in a 30-year post-closure monitoring period. We do have expenses that are budgeted annually. The amount of those expenses that are eligible for reimbursement from the state program is $7,476.67. It is an anticipated budget line item. We are recommending approval of the resolution and authorizing the mayor to sign it.
Thank you, Mr. Besesh. And I get this question all the time. How far off are we from closing everything out?
I verified this with our consultant 2 weeks ago, and it's 26, 27.
Okay.
You have to maintain a certain time period where we don't have any violations from our monitoring wells, but we have not in the last 3 or 4 years that I know of. So.
Good deal. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the reimbursement resolution and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement governing expenditures for state and local government costs.
I have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Perkle. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Good deal. All right, next we'll move on to item number 4, and that is Mr. Perkle.
Thank you. So the item for discussion here is the red light on Highway 20 at the intersection with Stanley Street and Alton Tucker realignment. This basically bisects the area between the red lights right now, which is fairly short distance. You've got the red light at Sycamore and Broad Street, and you've got the one at Hillcrest, and you've got slightly larger open area, and you hit the red light at Peachtree Industrial. The traffic does stack up past this intersection. You do see the new road there lined at the top, I think the right turn in and out of that road is going to cut into the stacking there. On the opposite side of the road, obviously the red light, and it's primarily for the development there on that side of the road, and I would say largely overall for the new apartment complex there. I think it's going to cause issues for traffic going back and forth with the additional red light. There were some comments from the state on requirements that would need to be done in terms of synchronization should that light go in. I think we're better off without it for the flow of traffic, certainly for the rest of the residents of the city that don't live on Hillcrest. I would not recommend the left turn lane there be open without the red light. I think that curb cut ought to be closed there on 20, but I would prefer not to see that red light there. I bring that up to the council, and I'd like to see a vote on that. Thank you.
Right. Any further discussion?
I have a couple questions. I'm not sure
Yes, sir.
if Kaipo or Mr. Basesh is going to be able to answer them. But first, will the red light, will it be synchronized with GDOT monitoring it, or will that be under Gwinnett County's purview with their traffic monitoring system?
Gwinnett County.
Okay. And then is there going to be, I know right now going east to west, there's not any deceleration lanes going either onto the new Alton Tucker Boulevard or coming onto Stanley for a right turn. Can that happen future looking, like future proof? Is that going to be able to happen? And then do we as a city have purview over doing that, or is that going to be GDOT as well?
There were a couple of questions.
I know, I'm sorry, Mr.
Can they happen in the future? I don't see why not.
Okay, well, in terms of, with the landing, I guess, is there enough room? I guess there's always enough room, it's just amount of money at this point, is that correct?
At this point, yes, we did ask for consideration of the permit without the decel lane from Georgia DOT. They did approve it without the decel lane. In the westbound direction, I think there's opportunities when that property develops. I think there's 18 and a half acres inclusive of Novair's project and the undeveloped corner of PIB and 20 that could potentially add the decel lane in the westbound direction. The purview is Georgia DOT.
Okay.
I think I answered all the questions.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page, and thank you for Mr. Basesh for answering those questions. Any other questions?
Yes,
Ms.
I have a couple of
Ms. Avery?
questions. I was looking at the page in the study that requires 4 following improvements to 4 different intersections, and I just wanted to verify that those improvements have been done. Intersection 1, Mr. Basesh, do you know which ones I'm talking about? Intersection 1, Buford Drive, Highway 20 at Stanley Street.
Ms. Avery, can you slow down for just a minute?
Sure.
I think that he may need some direction to know what document that you're actually talking about.
It's in the study from Kimberly Horn.
I don't have it in front of me, but
Yes.
I will do my best to answer the questions.
Okay, and they asked for 4 following improvements. Let's see here. Here we go. Under recommendations on page 24. They asked that at this intersection, there were 4 improvements based on the northbound, the southbound, the westbound, and the eastbound approaches. Have all 4 of those improvements been met?
The Kimberly Horn study makes recommendations at this intersection. The primary recommendation is signalizing the intersection with the improvements that you are referring. The northbound approach is the new section of roadway that we are constructing. It does have the northbound right turn lane as seen in the image. It does have a through lane and a left combined, and it does have a southbound inbound lane. The southbound approach, which is the approach from the new Novair project, as you can see from the image, just has the inbound and outbound lane. The signal plan that I've provided in my memo reflects that, and that is the level of improvements that Georgia DOT and Gwinnett County DOT have reviewed and approved with the phasing that is proposed and designed. So I think there are some improvements, as Mr. Page had asked about, that could be included in future improvements to the northbound side that are part of the Kimley Horn recommendation that have not been completed.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Avery, for the question. Any other questions, comments? All right, so I'm going to admit there's nothing here in the packet other than a memo. Is there supposed to be a motion or something that I'm supposed to ask for?
I'm prepared to make a motion to withdraw the application for the permit for the red light.
Mr. Thompson, since we don't have anything before us, does that need to be in an ordinance format, or?
I guess it would depend on what Mr. Perkle's doing. If his motion is simply to withdraw the permit for the light, then I think it wouldn't have to be in an ordinance form. If it's to amend your budget or do other things like that, I think it wouldn't need to be in an ordinance form.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so Mr. Perkle, could you restate your motion if you don't mind?
Yes, the motion will be to withdraw the application for the red light at Stanley Street and Highway 20.
All right, I have a motion to withdraw the application. Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second to withdraw. Any further discussion before I call the vote?
I'd like to make one final comment. Personally, I do not like the red light. I think several people can agree with that. But, I mean, after discussing, looking over, I mean, Taylor Anderson, he graciously shared the digital files. He didn't give me the paper ones, which that's perfectly fine. I didn't want them underneath my pillow at night to think about. But, I mean, after looking at that, after looking at the studies and everything, I'm hard-pressed not to go forward with this, just due to certain things like the crash reports in there, and just lots of different things, regarding safety. I think, Mr. Besesh, in your memo that you sent to us, there's nothing stopping either the county or the state coming back. If we withdraw the application today, they could say, well, we think it's warranted. They could come back tomorrow and say, well, we're going to put it up, and we will have no control over that. Is that correct? Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, personally, I do not like it. I think as a city, we have a duty to put it in there, or at least have an opportunity for our citizens to have that opportunity. And there's other red lights that are closer on Peachtree Industrial. So, like I said, not a personal fan of it, but in this regard, I'm going to have to agree.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, we have a motion and a second for withdrawal. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you, Ms. Whittington. All right, next we'll move on to item number 5, and that is a Planning Commission appointment by Mr. Perkle.
Thank you, Mayor. Our chairman of the Planning Commission has resigned, leaving a vacancy there. I'd like to nominate Brian Shebs, a member of our community for 20-plus years. Heavily involved in Sugar Hill Church, lives in Twin Creek subdivisions, moved here in Sugar Hill due to the small-town community feel and central location. He's an electrical engineer from University of Alabama, works for Georgia Pacific, serves as a warehousing automation platform manager, is transforming his warehouse through the use of robotics. In his personal time, he says he likes reading, playing golf, playing softball, and he has been a member of or chairman of the finance and personnel committees at Sugar Hill Church across the street. I think he'd be an outstanding replacement on the board.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. We have a nomination Any questions about the nomination? All right, I'll just make a comment. I think the last 10 years that I've served, it's kind of been a courtesy to share appointments with the entire team, and so I don't know Mr. Shebs. Could be an outstanding person. Don't know for sure. Did you share this with other members?
I have not emailed it out. I'm happy to do so. I did not see any mention from the planning staff that the position was open. I did not see the notice of resignation, and I did not see any other nominations put out there. Certainly, the floor is open. It's your call for all nominations. The way we've done in the past is we open the floor for nominations. Anybody can nominate somebody, and then we voted.
Sure, I agree. I don't think anybody else has another nomination, but I think it would have been good for the whole team to be able to know who they were appointing. Is there any possibility that we could maybe wait on this and you could share the...
I'd be happy to. I guess the only issue is the upcoming Planning Commission is scheduled to meet this month, meaning next week. There would be 4 members potential to be present. I think we got attendance reports on those, so that's at the council's discretion.
Sure.
Should they want to proceed or not?
All right, I'll put it up for a vote then. We have a nomination. Is there a motion to approve the nomination?
I'll second that. I approve it.
We need a motion first, ma'am.
Oh,
I thought I made the motion. If not, I'd be happy to make the motion to nominate Brian Shebs.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Avery. All right, all those in favor of the appointment, please raise your right hand. All right, all those opposed, like sign. All right. And I think for this one in particular, and I have no problem with Mr. Shebs. Again, I've not met him, but I think I'm going to use my veto authority on this one. And I'd love to talk to Ryan between now and next month when y'all would have the opportunity to overturn my veto. But the point that I'm really trying to make here is that the individuals that we appoint to our boards and commissions, they represent our city and they represent this team here. And that's why it's always been so important for me that nominations are shared with the entire team. And I just encourage y'all to communicate with each other and come up with somebody that y'all can all be supportive of. I think that's really important. So, and I think that's it.
Can I make a comment, please?
No, ma'am. Sorry, but thank you.
Can I make a motion to fill the vacancy?
I think it would be out of order. I have vetoed the appointment that you've made. There's not another item on the agenda to be considered. Mr. Thompson, I'll allow you to kind of maybe answer that response. There was already a motion and a vote that I vetoed. There really isn't another opportunity to make another appointment, is there?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is it to make another nomination, or? I think that's up to you, Mayor. If you think that's an inappropriate motion, then I think you can.
I think it's out of order. We've already acted on that item. Not trying to be difficult here, but I'm kind of a follower of procedure. So,
if I can, Mayor, I mean, again, we would just really be in the same situation as where we are now, just really with non-information. And again, I mean, Mr. Shebs sounds like a really novel guy, other than him going to the University of Alabama. But he sounded like a great guy, and I think that just from a consensual standpoint of understanding who the person is and really getting some information, or more, clarity and information on him. Again, so I think that would just present us with the same matter that was at hand with Mr. Shebs. And again, nothing against Mr. Shebs in itself, just more of just a little pre-context prior to would have been helpful.
sure, and I'll ask of Mr. Perkle if he doesn't mind if you're willing to, and and Mr. Shebs is willing to, just share his contact information so that we can all.
Sure, I'm happy to share that. I'll also mention this was brought up for discussion at the work session with no comments of any procedures that would be standard or other recommendations for any other individuals.
You got it. I'm just trying to encourage y'all to work together as a team, and I think y'all can get it accomplished very easily. Yep. All right, we're moving on to item number 6, and Miss Avery, that is you.
Okay, we're moving on to the item about sanitation and recycling updates. I went over this quite extensively at the work session last week and presented research and data, and I'm not going to go over every single item I went over in the work session. But I will say that based on my research with other cities and conversations with Troy Basesh and our discussions at the February work session, I propose that we negotiate a new contract with Waste Management. Our current contract ends 10/31/27, and the residential current monthly rate is $19.66. And we need to consider the following items. The new contract request is based on a change in the service level, since we went from no bags to carts, and having every other week recycling now instead of every week, and not having large household items picked up, which was available previously by having a bag attached to that item. According to who I've talked to with several other cities, do have weekly recycling, and some of them do have waste management and have similar rate schedules. Our priorities would be, with a new contract, to have every week recycling, volume-based fees, and keeping the current monthly rate the same. We also need to negotiate the franchise fees that Sugar Hill earns as revenue, which could possibly aid in keeping our monthly rate the same. As far as volume-based rates are concerned, the Waste Management website lists both a 64-gallon and a 96-gallon trash cart. Smaller households should have the choice of having the 64-gallon cart for a lesser fee. I would also propose that if the contract negotiations with Waste Management do not reach favorable results by the April council meeting, we would then move forward with a request for proposals. So I'd like to see if there's any questions or comments.
Thank you, Miss Avery. Any questions or comments? Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Basesh, this is a question for you. In this negotiation process, Waste Management could have the right to cancel the existing contract with a 120-day notice. Is that correct?
I think it's mutual, so either party could.
So they do have the option, if negotiations aren't going well with them, that they could exercise that option?
Yes.
I mean, I guess they could do that any time, but I mean, this would obviously initiate their analysis of their current contract as well. So, okay. I just want to make that clear that that's a possibility. As we saw in our packet today, we are amongst the lowest price for service with Waste Management or with any of the surrounding communities, and that is a potential outcome of this. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, but we just need to go in with eyes wide open as to the potential outcomes. They may not be all that favorable to us, so that's my only point other than that.
That was one of the reasons why I wanted to proceed with contract with, what?
Mind, just ask through me. That's how, I'm not being critical. I'm the person that sits in the seat, and I have to follow that. But you will recognize, Miss Avery. Thank you. Just do it, and I'll say, Miss Avery. That's what I'll do.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to proceed first with contract negotiations rather than simply saying request for proposals. Because it was my understanding that if we did go immediately with request for proposals, Waste Management could very potentially raise the rates we currently have. And I think that if they see that we're ready to negotiate, we'd like to talk about what changes we would like, let's see what happens.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Page? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on board. Troy, I'm not sure if there's a nice way to do it, because I know you'll be probably handling that alongside Paul. I mean, really, just gingerly, because I definitely feel, and like Taylor said, there's an opportunity for Waste Management to come back and exercise their right of the contract of 120 days, which I don't think is any of our intentions. It's really just to increase service level, what we're kind of getting service-wise, and then opening the opportunity for citizens to have more options, so if they want a smaller cart for, a smaller fee every month, or if we can, look into senior discounts like in your memo, just certain things where our citizens have more of an option to customize their trash service to kind of fit them instead of kind of one size fits all. So I do look forward to talking trash coming up.
Thank you. And I think Mr. Anderson has another question or comment.
I do, thank you, Mayor. In any negotiation, leverage is really, really important. And I guess my question in this case to staff would be, what is our leverage in this case? Do you have a feel? That you don't have to answer it now, but that's a question I would have going into negotiation is, what is our leverage to entice Waste Management? What is the threat? What's the carrot and what's the stick that we will be carrying to the negotiation process in order to achieve the desired outcomes? That's I guess that would be my question. And if you don't have that answer now, that would be something, and I don't know exactly what the leverage would be. We pushed hard back a couple of years ago when this first came up, and we realized it wasn't a whole lot of leverage we had.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short, but the carrot might be, as Ms. Avery mentioned, we've got a franchise fee arrangement with Waste Management, which would give us some negotiating ability to adjust the franchise fee rate down, and that would give us some flexibility on weekly recycling, on some other volume-based approaches. We also have the stick of the potential for the RFP process. The whole idea of one size fits all is Waste Management's model, unfortunately. I think we've talked to several other communities that have Waste Management as a provider, but they've just got a different breakdown of customer class. So they've got a larger commercial industrial customer class that they can shift some of the cost to that we don't have. So there's some disadvantage for us in that regard. But canceling a contract with potentially 7,000 customers would get their attention.
Thank you, Mr. Basesh. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, Ms. Avery, is there a motion that you'd like to make?
Yes, there is. I make a motion to direct city staff to proceed with contract negotiations with Waste Management. Provide those details by the April council meeting, and in the event that a new contract does not meet expectations, the council will move forward with a request for proposals at the April council meeting.
Well motion, Ms. Avery. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, a second from Mr. Perkle. Any further discussion before I call the vote? And again, this is given direction. All right, all those in favor of giving direction, please raise your right hand. Good deal. Thank you, Ms. Avery. And I just want to make a comment about why I asked that y'all ask to be acknowledged to speak, and that is for the benefit of Ms. Whittington, because it allows her to kind of keep up in the meeting minutes, and it just slows things down a little bit. And so didn't mean to come across as being a tyrant or anything like that. Again, I'm just the person that sits up here and has to guide the meeting forward. All right, so we are done with the agenda. Good work to everybody. I think we do have a need for executive session to talk about a couple of items.
We do, thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss legal, real estate, and/or personnel matters?
I'll make the motion, Mayor, to go into executive session to discuss legal, real estate, and/or personnel matters.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Page. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we're going to go into executive session, and we'll come back out when we are done. Do you think we'll have any action items, Mr. Radford?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we are back from executive session. We discussed 3 personnel matters and 1 legal matter, but we have no action to take outside of executive session. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Y'all have been slow on adjourns tonight. I'd have a motion to adjourn from Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hicks. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we are adjourned.